We are going to begin the first contributed paper session here. Our first speaker is Violeta Vasilevska, and she will be talking about active learning strategies.
I will be talking about IBL Moore method that I use in two of my classes in abstract algebra and foundations of topology. In the first part of my talk, we'll be comparing what worked, what kind of didn't work in both of my classes. And then I'll talk a little bit about what kind of active strategies, like a modified IBL method, I'm using in almost all of my classes, but what I'll be talking here specifically what I used in my proof-based classes. So first, I just want to tell you what I use for my abstract algebra foundations of topology, what kind of note, and what I cover before I start comparing them. For my abstract algebra class, and before I go further, I just need to tell you that abstract algebra I taught at the University of South Dakota, my previous institution, and foundations of topology at my current institution, Violeta Vasilevska University. For abstract algebra, I use the theory of groups from David Clark, and foundations of topology, I use the plane topology by Bink. In both of classes, I think I covered around the same size of material, 6-7 chapters from each of them, and we succeeded to cover most of the stuff that are needed for these courses. And the structure of both classes was a kind of traditional IBL method. The students were given the notes. They were supposed to work the problems, prove the theorems, to participate in class, and ask questions and evaluate the work presented by others. And at the end, to write up all of the homework and theorems and have their own portfolio. And my role as an instructor was to guide them, to lead them, to read what they've done, to listen, and to help them as much as I can. For the evaluation, it was almost the same, except the final for my Foundations of Topology class, I gave 30% versus 20% for Abstract Algebra course, and the difference was mostly in the homework and portfolio. For my abstract algebra class, I did not take the portfolio at the end, not even look at it, but I was grading homework every and each problem of it. I'm so sorry. If they submitted a problem or theorem before it was presented at class, they were given 3 points, and if they submitted afterwards, they were given 2 points, and they could have do revision and stuff like that. For my foundations of topology, I decided that that's too much of a work because I really work hard with abstract algebra. It was a lot of grading, a lot of looking at the proofs and giving feedback. So with foundations of topology, I decided to have just one problem submitted or one theorem submitted per week. And it was up to the students to decide which one to submit, but it must the theorem should have been the theorem that they haven't presented. I was grading on the scale 10, 9, 8, depends of how many revisions they needed to do to the proof. But at the end with this class, I collected the portfolio. Actually, I had 2 times per semester, and then the final, where I looked through all proofs and go over it and see if they've done a good job and give some feedback and work with that. So to compare some of the stuff with the two classes, first of all, with the previous IBL experience, with both of the classes, none of the students had a previous IBL experience. It was first time for all students in both classes, but, and it's a big but, because in the at UVU, Foundations Topology is traditionally taught with IBL method. So students, when they come to class, they kind of expect that they will, the method used will be some kind different. And of course, at the UVU, other classes are taught by IBL method. With abstract algebra at University of South Dakota, this was the first course. They didn't have high-bill experience. They didn't know what to expect. They kind of were frightened, and it was a struggle. I must admit that the first time with abstract algebra, without having previous IB experience, was a real struggle. But after I said that, I need to admit that at the end, when I received my evaluations, I was the whole semester I struggled so much and I worked so much with them 24/7, and it was really rewarding to read what they wrote in these evaluations and to see how this method helped them to raise to the scale that they raise, and how it helped them in many ways. It was really something. So definitely having previous IBL experience was a big change in both classes. With foundation topology, students just came, didn't ask questions, just start with what they were asking to. Another difference between the two classes was the abstract algebra class. I have 11 students, in foundations topology I have 2. And the type of students were completely different. In the first class, I have mix of students from strong to weaker. And in foundation topology, I have juniors, very strong. They have experience in proofwriting, compared with abstract algebra, where 40% of the students were pre-med, and seniors, it was the last semester. They didn't want any changes, but on the other side, they wanted A, so they needed to work, and they did a good job in that. And in abstract algebra, 50% of them, they haven't had any proof-based class before. So this was their first experience with proofwriting, and that was kind of, that was really hard to deal with. And when I compare the two classes, I mean, I really liked it, abstract algebra, because it challenged me in many ways. You need to deal with different types of students and kind of invest more in that. With foundations in the topology was you go to class, the students are presenting, they're good in that. Even if you try to give some hint how to prove something, they will come the next day and present completely different idea and correct idea, and it was great, but it didn't really require a lot of me, like I got involved in my abstract algebra class. Another thing that was different with the two classes, both of them are 3-credit classes, but the meeting times, abstract algebra meets 3 times per week, foundation topology 2 times per week. I didn't really have trouble. I have 2 students, very strong, as I said, and they worked really hard, and they enjoyed doing that, and the discussion in class were great. But still, even in the feedback that I took at the end, they mentioned that the 2 times, they would feel much more comfortable if it was 3 times per week, so they could have time to work more on the theorems and prepare kind of more of the materials. So I think, and for me, works with IBL method meeting 3 times per week compared to 2 times per week. And I think for students, at least for my student, that worked much better. I put some feedback about abstract algebra and then topology class. And I want to point out that when I say 70% said that they've learned a lot, 70% they wrote on the evaluation that they've learned a lot in one or another way. That doesn't mean that the rest didn't really learn a lot. They just didn't express in the evaluation. And as I said, reading the evaluation at the bank at the end, it was really rewarding because they were so positive, and they were so thankful for the whole class, and they really liked it, and expressed so appreciation for it. And the foundation topology, as I said, it was more like an independent study, but it was a class, and it went really good. In the last couple of minutes, I just want to talk about between the abstract algebra, the first class that I taught, abstract algebra, and the foundation of topology, which I taught this last semester, spring 2012. During that time, I was afraid because this semester with abstract algebra took so much of my time, and I was afraid that if I get involved with IBL and spend so much time on each class, I won't have time left. So I decided that I really want this IBL method, but how can I modify so I don't involve myself so much and I can, but on the other side, I wanted my students to get the same experience that they have with the traditional IBL. So I start thinking about the goals of proof-based courses and the goals of the IBL method, and I decided that, well, because they are almost the same, I want the same thing for my students to learn and think independently, to build problem solving, etc. Why don't I do something so I can use this method but modify it to work for my classes? So what I did lecture notes similar to the IBL notes. So I have just definitions and theorems. And by the way, I do have a book. So the book here is required, but I make my own lecture notes, and in the lecture notes I have just definitions and theorems like in the IBL notes. But so if I have definitions and I have theorem, and after the theorem I have space for proof, and that's the space where we fill in class. And in class I'm the one who is writing on the board, but the students are the ones who are telling me what I need to write for the proof. So sometimes I have some questions for them if they're stuck, and I'll lead them a little bit. But most of the proof that we do in class are the proof that they're telling me what to do. And I require, of course, that's a requirement of them to have active participation in class, and I worded 10 to 20% of it. The good thing with this is that because I'm writing, they don't really, they're not afraid to tell what I can write, because I'm writing. If I make a mistake, I made a mistake because I wrote that on the board. Even they told me what I wrote on the board. The great thing is that even if someone tells me something, idea that really doesn't work, I write it. I will write in the proof, and I'll continue with the proof. The great thing is that at some point, someone will notice that we are not going where we want with this proof. And then someone will say, well, I'm not sure if we are on the right track with it. Can we revise this? So we'll go back and check what we wrote, what I wrote, that they were telling me. And we'll kind of construct the proof together, mostly them, and I'm the one who is just writing the proof. So it worked really well because the students are really involved in class and they're not afraid to talk, and they really actively participate in the class structure. They don't afraid to come and ask during my office hours. And what didn't really work well with if you have a really huge class. So if you have a huge class, I struggled with how to involve all of the students. So I start asking and calling them by names, but some of them don't really want to be involved with names. So what I do right now in my classes, at the beginning of the class, I ask students and ask them, where are you comfortable for me to call your name, or just you want to give an answer when you're ready and raise your hand or give the answer. So I think that I have that underway, and they're pretty good with that. So I use this in each of my classes, not just in my proof-based, but what I was talking right now is was just proof-based class, and so far worked well in all of my classes, and it was really successful so far. And I think Gianni says that I'm done. Okay, thank you.